Welcome to the Whiskey with Winners podcast, the show with business titans sharing their stories of the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite glass of whiskey, and listen to the real and raw stories of these industry leaders. Now, here's your host, the man, the myth, the legend, the most interesting marketer, Jacob Fail.
What's up, everybody? It's Jacob Fell, the most interesting marketer, CEO, and founder of Brute Media Group. And we're here today with Bobby Stocks on the Whiskey with Winners podcast. He has built a 7-figure and I'm pretty sure close to an 8-figure agency, maybe even over 8 figures. Absolutely crushing it. We're glad to have him here. Here is Rag to Riches story. So welcome, Bobby Stocks. How's it going, brother?
Good. How about yourself?
Good. So just get into it. Let's learn about who Bobby Stocks is, where you came from, what you were doing as a kid. Did you always want to be an entrepreneur and stuff like that? So give us a backstory.
Yeah, definitely. I was born and raised outside of Philadelphia, suburbs called Drexel Hill. And I don't know, there was definitely signs that I had an entrepreneurial mindset, especially looking back. I had all the lemonade stands and all that stuff, and we actually got pretty serious with the lemonade stands, and I got to the point where one thing that I tend to excel at is not just creating a job for myself, but
Right.
putting people into that and starting to build out a team. So we had a lemonade stand. I got it going, and then I used to pay the kids that were a year younger than me to run the lemonade stand.
Nice.
So I would get everything set up, show them what to do, and then, basically go home and take my cut out of the lemonade stand. So, but I remember those. We would come up with different things. I used to. My parents had season tickets to the Eagles, and we would go to the baseball games and stuff like that. And one thing I would do is a lot of these games, they would have commemorative cups, like the gigantic big gold plastic cups.
Yeah.
And I'd wait until the game was over and everybody left, and people would just leave those cups. So I would go around and I'd collect the cups, bring them home, wash them out, and I would use those cups for the lemonade stand.
Smart.
So I'd upcharge it, and instead of it being 25 cents for a cup of iced tea or lemonade, we would have it be $2. But they'd have an Eagles cup or a Phillies cup. And the best I ever did was there was a playoff game, Phillies playoff game. So it was the cup was a really special cup,
Right.
And we were selling those for, I think it was $3.50 a piece. And in one day we made a couple $100. So yeah, I was raking it in.
Yeah.
But so that was already there when I was much younger. But as I got into, I got in high school and all that stuff, and I was just busy, partying,
Right.
doing all that stuff, working at, pizza shops and restaurants and things like that.
And you ran a country club, right? With your background.
Yeah. So I got pretty involved with food, and out of high school went to culinary school, and then started working at different restaurants as not just baking. Before, I was working at pizza shops and stuff like that. So went to culinary school, and then about a year out of culinary school, got a shot to become a head chef. They basically fired the head chef at this country club I was working at, they gave me a shot, and yeah, I ended up being head chef of that country club for 9 years. Before I, decided to quit and try to really like make it on my own. And while I was at that country club, I started doing side catering gigs, and I ended up getting sober because I was still partying like crazy. And that's really when, the urge to try to build my own business and, quit the 9 to 5 was inside of me. And in 2012 is when I decided to quit and try to figure out, what I could do on my own.
Right. And then so transitioning from that, didn't you go on Craigslist and start a fencing company?
Yes.
How did that come about?
So when I quit my job, my plan was that I was going to I had an interview set up at a financial advising firm because part of like some of what I was doing on the side to make money was trading stocks.
Right.
So, which is why my actual last name's not Stocks.
Right.
But people call me Bobby Stocks. They have for years because I got really into trading stocks. And my last name's Scott, so it's close enough. So people just started calling me Stocks. And that translated online because everybody was always calling me Stocks. So I was like, fuck it. So my big plan was I'm going to go in, I'm going to be a financial advisor. I'll have products I can sell, but it'll be like my own business, basically. I have like a felony conviction and all the crazy stuff from when I was, drinking and doing heavy drugs and all of that. So they did hire me because of how much kind of like background I had doing trading stocks. So I could talk about it. I knew all the lingo. And then when it came to getting my Series 7 license, the federal government was like, nah.
That sucks.
So basically, long story short, I was like, my plan completely blew up on me.
Right.
And at this point, I had a mortgage. I had, a car payment. I had all this stuff that I had built up from making, your standard 56K a year, job.
Right.
So I was depressed. I bought a dog, first dog I ever had, this blue-nosed pit bull. And my fiance at the time, now wife, said, you got to build a fence for the dog. I went out. I built this fence, and it wasn't straight. It was like crooked. I had kind of no idea what I was doing. My dad was a carpenter, so I had like some woodworking skills just from him being in the carpenters union. He had his own business for a number of years. And somebody, one of my buddies had joked with me, and he said, you're probably going to start a fencing business. And so it was kind of a joke, and I was like, fuck it. So I went on Craigslist, and I put an ad out for the affordable fence guys. And 2 weeks later, I got an email in my inbox from somebody that wanted an estimate. And I remember being like, oh,
like you got over your head on that one.
Yeah, I'm like, am I even going to respond? And I knew a guy that had a truck, and he had recently just quit his job.
Right.
And I said, hey, do you want to go in on a business? So we both showed up. And I'm not the best at lying. So like, I'm like talking to this guy, and I just cracked, and I was like, look, man, I don't really know what I'm doing. I built this fence, and I showed him, I had pictures on my phone, and I said, I built this fence in my backyard, like literally 3 weeks ago. And neither of us, like, we both just quit our job, and like things aren't really working out with that. And the guy was a contractor who actually was on disability because he like did something to his tendon. He had a cast on.
Right.
And he said, look, I'll pay you $150 an hour. And I'll show you and give you some tips along the way. And, you guys got the job.
No,
and, clearly the dude just felt bad for us and he figured he's going to get a deal.
right.
So, we put up the fence and, he paid us and he gave us some tips along the way. And, that gave us the confidence. And then that's really where my journey in marketing and, business strategy and all that started.
Right.
We needed work. So a lead came, we got our first job from Craigslist. So I was like, Craigslist. So I started trying to figure out, how Craigslist worked, having to post every day, having to try to beat Craigslist's algorithm.
Right.
Started creating multiple companies so that I could, spread myself out on Craigslist. And that, we started getting a lot of inquiries from Craigslist. And late in 2012, I started trying to figure out Facebook.
Right.
And that's really, between like the marketing, the business strategy, and really like how I wanted the business to be, all started to come alive. And so I ended up splitting off with that partner because we disagreed on the trajectory of the business. He wanted us to focus on fence repair. And I was like, it's just, the market's not big enough.
Right.
So we split off. I got my own truck and started teaching myself Facebook ads. And that was kind of where it all started. And we grew, we grew all from Facebook. I shut the company down at the end of 2015. At that point, we had 2 crews. We had 2 different big trucks. We had a warehouse and a yard, and we were doing 2 jobs. My crew worked 5 days a week. Like I had a sales guy, and everything came in from Facebook. And that's really when I was like, I got to the point where I realized that marketing, that was my thing, and that I might actually be better off just going directly into the marketing world rather than, sticking in the fencing business. And I wanted to be able to travel, and I wanted all like that freedom of working from my laptop.
Right. So basically you started Facebook ads, running them for your fencing company, and then you shut the whole company down because you wanted more freedom, because you were being more or less more in the business than working on the business, and you were set to one specific geographic area. So
it was like the geographic area, it was like I could never move anywhere. Well, I guess I could, but then I'd have to operate it. Like it was just, it's limited, right? So there was a lot of things about it that just didn't necessarily fit into, what I wanted to create.
Right. Gotcha. So now, like, moving forward from that, so now you specialize in lead generation and coaching, consulting. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing now that you've segued into.
Yeah. So, 2016, January 2016 was like my first month as like, okay, I'm starting over again. Like, this is like,
right.
I got to do this all over again. First month I made like 10K, and I was like, yeah. And then I went completely broke. I went completely broke.
The roller coaster.
It's like August. Yeah. It was like August of 2016. I think I made like $3,500.
Right.
And I was like, I think the low point was June.
Yeah.
Where, I think I made like $600, something like that. So it was like all the money was gone. I wasn't making car payments. Wife was on my ass about everything. So I started to pick up traction and in the mortgage niche, and started to realize that, again, like my zone was not sales.
Mhm.
It was sticking to the marketing, trying to figure out how to get the leads in, stuff on the back end. So really like where I got traction was January of 2017. I hired my first sales guy, and I focused on getting the leads. And then we really scaled from there. It was like as soon as I got a sales guy, that first month I went from, by December of 2016, I was pulling in anywhere from 5,000 to 8,000. So I was like feeling like, whoa, this is more money than I made when I was a chef.
Right.
And it's more consistent money that I made in the fencing company because there was so much overhead in the fencing company. And so much like, one job goes wrong and I'm out 10 G's.
Right.
And so I was like feeling really good. And I really started posting. And in January, we did $30,000. And that's when I was like, whoa. And it was as soon as I got myself out of sales.
Yeah.
And then from there, just started, hiring more and trying to create more systems and processes and scale more. So since that point, for a number of years, we focused on mortgage brokers, and then I started running ads for high ticket courses and other experts, and then started promoting my own stuff. And all that, like, all different types of business ideas and things that have gone wrong and things that have worked and all that. At this point now we have a few different business fronts. We have the local ad agency. We have a number of courses that we promote and that we are equity owners in. And then we have a software company that we promote that, helps people convert leads. So, it's all kind of like morphed in there up until present date.
Nice. And so you are, so a cool thing that I remember about you that you did was it's kind of like a secret advertising campaign almost. It's the Donahue. So,
Oh, yeah.
So do you want to speak a little bit on that? Or are we keeping the Donahue a secret?
Yeah. So Donahue's kind of funny. So my buddy James Baskin, the outsource king, who I've known for 11 and a half years now.
Yeah.
He actually used to work with me when at my country club.
Right.
So we kind of had a prank where we came up with this fake mining company back in 2011, and we started posting about it on Facebook a lot, just like that it was this over-the-top opportunity. And people in our area started messaging us wanting to invest.
Right.
So 2017, we did a mastermind. Actually, no, it was 2018. We did a mastermind in Vegas, and we were all at a dinner table. And Patrick Phillips, who was at that mastermind, said, "Do you remember that Donahue thing that you guys were doing back in 2011?" So we're all joking about it, and the fact that when some of the selling psychology and social psychology of posting proof and being vague and ambiguous about things and gurus and stuff like that. So during that dinner, we laughed and we said, like, we should create a fake guru called Donahue. Right. And just start posting about it. So like during that dinner, we actually started posting inside the ClickFunnels group.
Right.
We're all sitting out at dinner, at this mastermind, and that's really where it took off.
Yeah.
And as you know, it was like Donahue won like #1 biggest influencer twice.
Yeah, like twice or 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, the people that over that year, the people that had messaged me, like the caliber of people that messaged me asking me,
wondering who Donahue was.
who the hell Donahue was, is just it used to crack me up.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think like, what do you think? Because I mean, you're kind of in that higher tier. I don't want to say guru space, but the influencer space. Like, do you think that kind of shed light onto making you more of an influencer from that social?
Yeah, it definitely was a little bit of a hack, right? Because I got a lot of attention from it. And, you know, it had some humor in it. So, I mean, there's definitely like, you know, if you wanted to like really draw the lessons out of that, something that I always kept myself like, I knew Donahue.
Right.
Like that was how I positioned myself. Right. And when everything blew up on ClickFunnels, I was like, oh, okay, here's the opportunity for me to cash in on the buzz around Donahue by, you know, doing the Wizard of Oz and pulling back the curtains.
Yeah. Nice.
So
that's awesome. Yeah, that was whenever I was like, I saw everybody post and I'm like, what's up with this Donahue? And I think a lot of people like saw that. And then I think you did a Facebook Live or something explaining everything. And then it all made sense to everybody. But
yeah, the Donahue method.
Yeah, that was awesome. So, like what over the past years, I mean, obviously, you know, with having felony convictions and different things, like other than that, or, you know, maybe that too, what has been some of the biggest struggles for you in business and growing your business and scaling? Like what's been some of the roadblocks that you've had over the past years?
I don't want my power to die here. Man, I would say staying as you scale, it can become it's like everybody wants to scale, right? Everybody's like, oh, how can I scale? How can I scale? And the difficulty is the amount of like things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
The stress involved with that is just like a whole nother level. So, like, and you know, I like to talk about like where I'm at now. Like this time last year, we were like just scaling so hard, and you know, and that's where we were like, all right, we're gonna get to $1 million a month, and we were getting there. And then like really like experiencing the amount of stress that can go into that, right? You're like talking about, you know, now you're managing 30 plus people, right? Now you have, you know, just hundreds of thousands of dollars in money going out every single month, right? It's like, your business manager gets shut down, and then you have, you know, 15 sales guys that are like, where are my calls? Where are my calls? Right. So it's like, yeah, it's just, it really like took a lot out of me. Yeah. It really wore me down. And like the last 6 months have really been like a restructuring of like how I want things to look. And like, you know, talking to some other guys that are like, been around a lot longer that are like, yeah, bro, like it happened to me, you know, I wore myself out. So really like restructuring a lot of what we've done, and we cut a lot of what we were doing, you know, so we're definitely, you know, now we're more of like the $350,000 to $500,000 a month range.
Right.
And, you know, looking at like, not only not looking at it, and there's a good buddy of mine, Tim, that always Tim Shermack, that always talks about that. Like and again, it just goes back to this obsession. You see it online, like everybody wants to be $1 million a month business. Right. Now that's like the new thing. Like And there can come a cost with that, right? So talking to some of my buddies that were like, man, like just scaling just to scale is can be one of the worst things that you can ever do in your life.
Right.
Instead of looking at what type of profit margins do you want to have? What type of freedom do you want to have? What type of focus do you want to have?
Yeah.
And that's really where I'm starting to land in more, which is part of the reason why I moved from Puerto Rico.
Right.
I moved to Puerto Rico because I was like, let's scale hard. Let me only pay 4% tax.
Right.
It was just all let's make more money, save more money. But it wasn't really based off of what type of quality of life do I want? What type of interaction do I want? What type of services do I want? It was based off of more of that stuff. So yeah, it's been a lot of restructuring, a lot of thinking how do I want my local agency to look like? What niches do I want to go into? What courses do I want to focus on? With our software agency, who do we really want to serve? So just for me, that's really what my focus has been on, and kind of redefining what I want my business to look like, inside internet marketing and for the future, right? It's I just turned 37 and I'm like, well, I kind of feel like an old guy because internet marketing is it feels like a young guy's game, So, do I want to go back in and do I want to start another service-based business?
Right.
Because there's one thing to that. It's to stay on top in the IM world is a feat.
Yeah.
Whoever's hot today, you don't see them next year, very rarely. It takes a lot of work because you're playing in the NBA.
Right.
And our director of marketing, James Wilder, always says a mentor of his that had been around for 20 years always said to him, do you want to play in the NBA or do you want to dunk on 6-year-olds?
Yeah, that's the truth.
And, sometimes it's dunking on 6-year-olds.
Right.
Seems pretty easy from time to time.
Yeah. It's true. That's true. So, I mean, talking about that, where do you personally see internet marketing and lead generation and courses in the next 3 to 5 years? What do you think is going to change about things?
I mean, if you look, if I just look at, when I think the very first webinar I ever watched was 2013.
Right.
And internet marketing is just like clothing. I see some of the same stuff that was hot back then is now starting to come back now. The reframe might be a little bit different. So it's always let's say we go in another economic, when the market turns down,
right,
you'll see another big push around consulting.
Right.
You'll see another big push around low-end membership sites. You're already seeing it now. That's why you're seeing so many people pushing so many front-end offers. It's not only to combat the platform increases, the noise, it's also to get as many buyers into the buying pool in case there's an economic downturn. So on the coaching space, it's always going to be there. It's just always going to look a little bit different. So it's kind of the easiest way to stay on top of where things are going is always to look back on what was popular 5 years ago.
Right.
It's just like now you see direct mail making a comeback.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's because nobody gets mail anymore.
Right.
Everybody gets emails, right? And now direct mail fell off because everybody, people's mailboxes were like stuffed with advertorials, so nobody was reading them, right?
Yeah.
So it's always like attention just is always shifting from one medium back to the other.
Right.
So it's just where is it shifting and kind of tapping into that while you can.
Right. Right. Now, what are some things that people should look for? I mean, I'm in your boiler room group, and I learned from you and Rob and everybody else, Patrick and Thomas and everybody else that's in there. So what should people look for whenever they're A, hiring a lead generation expert, and B, hiring a mentor or a coach? Like, what would your advice be on that?
When hiring a lead place, I would say, unless you're hiring somebody that's like very niche, avoid anybody who says, if you're like in the coaching space, if your offer is selling organically, or if your offer is selling to referrals, that it can sell through paid traffic. And I hear that all the time. I hear people say, "Oh, great. I see you validated this offer organically, so let's sell it through paid traffic."
Right.
Getting somebody to convert through paid traffic that doesn't know you versus getting somebody to convert who's organically found you is night and day. And I'll hear people say, well, you could do like paid content and stuff like that, which is like kind of true. But anytime somebody sees that, there's a reason why the ads say sponsored.
Right.
There's a reason why on Google AdWords, it's green. It used to be a different color.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why they changed that color, right?
Right.
So there's just something that happens the second somebody knows that you are paying to put that in front of them that creates a whole different environment. So, what gets something to convert in the organic referral marketplace versus paid is night and day. So anytime an expert says it's going to be easy, that's not the case. I mean, I got a team of copywriters, videos, like, media buyer, like you name it. Everybody, James has been in the internet marketing space since 2008. Like,
right.
And it's still, no matter how much experience somebody has, it's still a guessing game, right? It's still, okay, what's the particular scenario? Because in marketing and sales, there's so many small things can make a big difference.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I think that whenever people see paid traffic, especially like if they're trying to buy a course or they're trying to hire someone as a mentor, it'll either build trust or build distrust if you don't, if you haven't seen them before, you haven't, interacted with them in some way, shape, or form. I mean, don't you think that that's the case?
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that over the long term usually trumps all is proof.
Mm.
Another saying from Tim Shermack, young guy, much younger than me, super successful. Yeah. He said the best marketing in the world is somebody who's extremely arrogant about their results, but they have the proof to back it up.
Mm.
And he's a very modest guy.
Right.
But that's one thing. Like, if you can back up the proof, you can really get away with a lot of bad marketing.
Right.
Which is why we've always, like in Boiler and AAH, we've always like show proof,
right.
Because it is the ultimate hack around, like if you don't have professional video guys, or you can write amazing copy, or this, that, and the other, right? If you can show proof, then you can really, streamline and simplify your marketing.
Right. Now,
Because it just appeals to the most basic tribal lizard brain of human beings, which is, when I make this decision, am I going to die?
right.
Or am I going to be safe?
Right. Now with that, like, say that you're talking to, because I have a lot of sales guys and a lot of marketing guys that listen to the podcast. So say that they're just starting out. What would your advice be to them? Would it be do some free work to get some social proof? Get some video testimonials, get some screenshots, different things like that. What would your advice be to them?
Yeah, basically, it's all about, like, there's a bunch of different ways of proof, right?
Right.
So you have third-party proof. So third-party proof would be third-party proof is a podcast.
Right.
Right. It's how Oprah became so big. Oprah became a spiritual leader by interviewing spiritual leaders. Right. So that's third-party proof, right? So you can get proof by associating yourself into a niche, into people that have results. So that's one way, right? That's one way that, and it's like, ethically, there's tons of people that take advantage of that in the wrong way, right?
Right.
But that is a very effective way.
Right.
I know people that really have no idea what they're doing, but they position themselves in a way where they get hired.
Right.
So that's one way. Another way, and like I say, definitely, I did work for almost nothing in the beginning. I had clients that were paying me $200 a month. I still have a client that pays me $500 a month. That was one of my very first clients back in 2015. I still charge her $500 a month. But it's like, there's so many different ways to chop that proof up, right? So you can do a case study, you can do a video walkthrough, take every single screenshot. You just want to blow it up to make it look way bigger than it is.
Right. Right.
And one thing I still fall into this like today, I struggle with this, which is that your prospects, it takes so much proof and simple messaging to get it to stick inside somebody's brain, that what typically will happen, and like I said, I still struggle with this today, is that 99% of people don't talk about their results, or don't show proof enough, because they think, well, I posted that last week and everybody saw it.
Right.
Right. It's like wearing the same shirt every day. Most people they're not going to notice. They might notice 3 weeks later and be like, wait a minute, like, I feel like you've been wearing that shirt a lot. Right. So when it comes to what you do, the results you get and how you get it, like, really, you need to be talking about it daily. And that's why I say, like, I really slacked on that. And I think a lot of that was because I burnt myself out last year. I used to be like the king of, like, all day long, proof, talking about what you're doing, talking about the results you're getting. If you get committed to that, now you're hitting your people so much that it does start to stick. They start to take notice. I had people, when I used to do that, I would have people that would hate on my post and be like, oh, you're just bragging or whatever. And I had to get over that, because it did feel like that. Right. But 6 months later of me continuing to do that, next thing you know, they're in my inbox asking me how they can hire me.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like consistency and proof breeds trust.
Right. Yeah.
Even with, in a totally inhabitable environment, like, no matter how over the top you are, or if people don't like the way you look or whatever that is, enough proof and consistency will have them start to double guess themselves.
Right. Well, and that's kind of goes back to your story. It was on Nicholas Ayers' podcast about you talking about I believe it was your cousin that had a wedding business or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to share a little bit about that, about how that kind of like for
Yeah. So my cousin-in-law Bryant, his wife Jenny is she does DJing on the side. So she wanted to start. She's a nurse and she started wanting to pick up more DJing things. So she did like 2 weddings, but she took so many photos and videos and then spread out the content trip of it. So like every weekend she would post more of these same things. And next thing you know, she started to get booked up because people thought she was busy. They thought, oh, wow, Jenny's the lady DJ is doing weddings every single weekend.
Mhm.
Maybe she should do my event, or I should probably reach out to her now to make sure I can get booked in.
Right.
She wasn't doing anything. Right. So, and again, it's the same thing. Consistency, proof of results, that's proof of results. Proof of results can just be like breaking down business tips. It's just action. People want to always align themselves and hire people who are in action and having results. And Mitch Miller always says people want to work with people who are on an upward trajectory, right? Nobody wants to work with a guy who's like, life sucks, and he's posting about that. Everybody might feel bad for the guy. They might like the post. They might say, stay strong, but they sure as hell ain't giving the money over to somebody who's in that position, right? So everybody, again, it all comes back to that sense of that deep need, tribal need of safety. Who am my safest decision to invest my money with? And it's going to be somebody who seems successful. It's just like, and no hit on Grant Cardone, but Cardone's got like that ad agency that Frank Kern was with, and Kern stepped aside because it was totally, blowing up.
Right.
And Cardone's still pushing it.
Yeah.
And I've heard it's a complete shit show.
Yeah.
But people are still hiring it, right? Because they're like, Cardone's successful.
Right.
I'm not even going to consider the fact that like the actual systems and like the systems and processes that scale would just be mind-boggling.
Right.
But people are just not even considering that because they want to align themselves with success.
Right. Now, with that, what do you think the biggest challenge or like the biggest struggle is, like from successful people versus unsuccessful people? Like what's the biggest difference there that you've seen, whether it be ad agencies or just, regular businesses?
I mean, you have there's tactical issues, and then there's, underlying all that stuff, which is there's a mindset issue. Now, I spent years working on my mindset, and
right.
It's like I always need to be working on it. There's like a saying that like, your mindset, your income will never increase beyond your mindset.
Right.
Right. So, if you're stuck, it's likely the perception, the beliefs, or, the constraints that you have about what you're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be like whether you're capable of outsourcing, or whether you're capable of doing this, or whether you're capable of doing that, or whether you, like for me, the sales thing, right? Like I was like, I didn't want to post because I didn't want people to think that to judge me for being like bragging and stuff like that. So I stayed within myself. And I would say I probably don't post now because I got to a point where I thought that maybe I was too good to do that.
Right.
Right. Like that's been like my kind of like looking at my mindset, like what's my hesitation from like really being active? Right. Is it because like I think I've built enough systems that I don't have to do that? Mm. And then is that true, or is that actually my ego saying that? Right. So, back then it was that, and it was that I needed to be the guy that did the selling. Right. I was so attached to like, I need to sell. So I need to like get a sales coach, and I need to read this book and that book. And once I got to the point where it was like, yeah, I had to admit to myself that I suck at sales. There's a reason why I'm having panic attacks before sales calls.
Right.
Like I literally would breathe into a bag. I'm like, I don't know what this does, but people say that it does something. So, you know, like that's the type of mindset, like really getting honest with yourself about how is it that I am getting in the way.
Right.
And that's any business. It's anything. It's all of life. You know, it's how am I getting away with my relationship? How am I getting away with the what? This, that, and the other. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, and I, even before that, like I had invested in bad mentors and things like that. And I looked and I said, how come I had these experiences back to back to back? Right. And it was because I invested in them because of their confidence. And there was an underlying belief or want that they could save me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like this will be the thing.
Right.
When the reality is, it's like, once I was like, no, I need to save me.
Mm-hmm.
I have everything I need.
Right.
Right. All the like skills I had, most people have the skill sets to make $1 million in a year. Right. Like I know plenty of guys that are making, you know, that have 100K a month agencies.
Right.
Where they're doing some basic shit. Not complicated.
Right.
Right. So tactically speaking, and you know, most people have that, right? So it's getting from the point of realizing I have everything I need now. I need to just become ruthless about implementing it.
Right.
And then demolishing what stuff comes up around that. You know, as you're doing stuff, there's the fears or the considerations. And, you know, that's something like if you look at Patrick, like something that Patrick's done a really good job of, and that's what's helped him break through.
Right.
So, but, you know, most people don't want to talk about mindset, and most people won't buy it.
Right.
You know, that's why there's a saying in the market. It's like sell what people want and then give them what they need.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the mindset thing, because people buy with emotion, you know, and a lot of people, like, if they're not right in their own mindset, they're not going to implement, they're not going to take action, and they're going to sit back and not do anything, but they're going to act like, you know, or think that they're doing something, and they get analysis paralysis because they start looking at everything, and, you know, they just get overwhelmed and don't do anything. And I think that's a lot of people's problems too. Now, what's your number one piece of advice? We're wrapping up here, but what's your number one piece of advice to maybe a new a agency owner or a business owner, to help them get to the level that you've gotten to? You know, scaling, building systems. You know, what would your number one piece of advice be?
Like if it was just broad, business owner, you know, whatever they were doing, I think most people lack, like, again, what I was saying, like just selling, not closing on the phone, but selling who they are, selling their service and their product and what they do. And I think like that can be the number one breakthrough when it comes to like getting money to start coming in, right? So it's like become like somebody who brags about the results and that you get for your clients. Right. Whether you're a guy, you know, a landscaper or whatever it is, become somebody who's actively a daily promoter of what it is you do. Video, whatever it may be, just you got to become like I've just seen it with so many people, not only myself, that once they become that like ruthless, committed promoter of themselves, it's just a matter of time before the business comes in.
Right. Definitely. That's good advice for sure. So I want to kind of take things back and do a little bit of just some fun questions. So just some random questions. What's your favorite food to eat?
Steak.
Steak?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always see you posting this. What's your favorite habit or your favorite hobby, your thing to do?
My favorite it's fishing.
Yeah.
But it's a hard toss up between fishing and marketing.
Right. Nice. What's your favorite cigar? Because I know you like smoking cigars as well as I.
My favorite cigar it's called the Tabernacle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where is that? Is that a Cuban cigar? Or is it?
No, it's a Nicaraguan cigar.
Okay.
It's pretty sure the name of the company is called Foundation.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's my favorite cigar.
Nice. What has been one of the most transformational books that you've read in the past?
The Big Leap.
The Big Leap. Who is that by?
Shit, I forget the dude's name. It basically talks about how human beings have a threshold for success, and it goes back to this like lizard brain.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he talks about 4 different levels of success and how people will self-sabotage, and you know, as soon as things start to get too good, all of a sudden something goes wrong.
Right.
It really is a great book. I recommend it to everybody that can help you start thinking about, you know, when things go good, how come, you know, right away your mind will think about, yeah, but, or like, I got this campaign going, but,
Right.
you know, I just lost this client, right?
Right.
So your mind automatically will tend to move right towards how can I keep my energy. And, you know, the idea is that if I get too comfortable, I get too excited, things are going too well, I'm going to stop staying on guard of the mountain lion that could eat me or the other tribe that could come in. Yeah. So, which obviously doesn't really, you know, isn't really an effective way to live circa 2020.
Right, exactly. And a lot of people do live that way. Now, what is your biggest advice? Because you have a big team now. What's your biggest advice on hiring and scaling and picking the right people? Because obviously, if you have a car and it doesn't have the right engine in it, you know, it's not going to go anywhere.
So most, in my experience, and most like entrepreneurial, like business owners tend to be very disorganized. Now you will get the outliers that are very organized, right? But most are very disorganized. So we've had our best successes when it comes to hires when we hire extremely organized people. And another problem that I know I've had, and I see other entrepreneurs, is they'll tend to want to hire people who are like them. Because there's that synergy, right? There's that, okay, yeah, that's a great idea, right? You don't need any more ideas.
Yeah.
You need people that can shoot down ideas and then people that can actually implement those ideas in an organized way.
Right. That's great.
So less ideas, more people that can actually implement the ideas in an organized way.
Yeah, definitely. That's great advice. So how can people get in touch with you, get in touch with your business, and you know, can they intermingle with you?
I always just tell people, just send me a message on Facebook. You know, I'll check my other box every once in a while.
Right.
Either that or, you know, bobbystocks.com.
Cool. One last question, Bobby, and then we'll wrap it up. If today was your last day, what would Bobby want to be remembered by or remembered for?
That's a tough one.
I know. That's why.
What would I want to be remembered for? I guess like what, some of the work that I've done with like other, recovering alcoholics and people that struggled with that type of stuff over the years.
Right. Making a difference in people's lives and helping them out with their addictions and struggle. Awesome. Well, that's good to hear, brother. Well, I appreciate you for being on the podcast, and we look forward to talking with you some more. And if anybody needs help with anything, Bobby is the go-to guy. Look him up. Check out the Boiler Room. Check out Ad Agency Hustle, all the stuff he's doing. Incredible entrepreneur, and I appreciate you for being on here, brother.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Whiskey with Winners podcast, your home for real and raw stories of industry titans. Make sure to click the button below to subscribe. Follow our journey on Instagram at Most Interesting Marketer and Anchor, Stitcher, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. Remember to always stay humble, stay hungry, and stay focused.
Everything that I'm saying is out of context. Wait, it's not even really a contest. See, if you already know, then I'm next. Looking at a bodybuilder like Y Flex. I'm dope in the pot like it's Pyrex. And I do it big just like a T-Rex. A T-Rex, I'm the best to ever do it. Could be so dope when he flow to the fucking music. Like, this shit is nasty for real. Yeah, I'm dope. You don't even have to ask me for real, man. Damn, I think I'm going wrong. I'm going hard. Woo. Who could come up with the bars? I'm a shooting star. I shine bright in the fucking night, and they can't tell me that I'm doing wrong. I do it right, like I'm at the top. So who could really top that? Yeah, and tune in to the podcast. Dollar, that's what